A beggar lived at a railway station in a certain city. He survived by begging from passengers on the trains that came and went. One day, while he was begging, he noticed a tall man dressed in a suit. He thought, "This man looks very rich. If I beg from him, he'll surely give me good money." He started begging from the tall man. Seeing the beggar, the tall man said, "You're always asking. Have you ever given anything to anyone?" The beggar replied, "Sir, I am just a beggar. I always ask from others. I'm not capable of giving anything." The tall man said, "If you can't give anything, you don't have the right to ask either. I am a businessman, and I believe in give and take. If you have something to give me, only then can I give you something in return." Saying this, the tall man boarded the train and left. Meanwhile, the beggar started thinking about what the man had said. The tall man's words deeply touched the beggar's heart. He thought, "Maybe I don't get much alms because I don't give anything in return. But I'm a beggar. I have nothing to give anyone. But how long will I keep asking from people without giving anything in return?" After thinking a lot, the beggar decided that he would give something to anyone who gave him alms. But now a question troubled him. Being a beggar himself, what could he possibly give others in return? 2 days passed pondering this question, but he couldn't find an answer. On the third day, as he sat near the station, his eyes fell upon some flowers blooming on nearby plants. He thought, "Why don't I give flowers to people in return for alms?" He liked the idea and plucked a few flowers from there. Now he went to beg inside the train. Now, whenever someone gave him alms, he would give them some flowers in return. People happily kept the flowers with them. Now, the beggar picked flowers daily and distributed them in exchange for alms. Within a few days, he noticed that more and more people had started giving him alms. He started plucking all the flowers near the station. As long as he had flowers, many people gave him alms. But when he ran out of flowers, he stopped receiving alms. This routine continued daily. One day, while he was begging, he saw that the same tall man was sitting in the train. The same man who had inspired him to give flowers in return for alms. He immediately went to that man and said while begging, "Today I have something to give you, some flowers. If you give me alms, I will give you some flowers in return." The tall man gave him some money as alms, and the beggar gave him a few flowers. The tall man really liked this gesture. He said, "Wow, wonderful. Today you've become a businessman just like me." Saying this, the tall man got off the train at his station with the flowers. But once again, the tall man's words struck a chord in the beggar's heart. He kept thinking about the tall man's words again and again, and began to feel very happy. His eyes began to shine. He felt he had now found the key to success that could change his life. He immediately got off the train and looked up at the sky, shouting with great excitement, "I am not a beggar. I am a businessman. I too can become rich." People saw him and thought that perhaps the beggar had gone mad, and from the next day, that beggar was never seen at that station again. But 6 months later, 2 men in suits were traveling at that same station. They looked at each other, and one of them shook hands with the other and said, "Do you recognize me?" The second man replied, "No, I believe we are meeting for the first time." The first man said, "No, try to remember. We are not meeting for the first, but for the third time." The second man said, "I don't remember. When did we meet the other 2 times?" Now the first man smiled and said, "We met both times earlier on this same train. I am the same beggar whom you told in the first meeting what I should do with my life. And in the second meeting, you told me who I truly was." The second man smiled and said in surprise, "Oh, now I remember. You're that same beggar I once refused to give alms to, and the second time I bought some flowers from you. But where are you going today dressed in a suit? And what are you doing nowadays?" Then the first man said, "Yes, I am that same beggar, but today I am a big flower businessman, and I am going to another city for business purposes." After a pause, he continued, "In our first meeting, you taught me the law of nature, that we receive only when we give. This rule of give and take really works. I have experienced this very deeply, but I always saw myself as a beggar. I never thought beyond that identity. And in our second meeting, you told me that I had become a businessman. That's when I understood that I was no longer a beggar. I realized why people were giving me so much money, because they weren't giving me alms, they were paying for the flowers. Everyone was buying my flowers because they couldn't find them cheaper anywhere else. In others' eyes, I was a small businessman, but in my own eyes, I was still a beggar. But when you told me, I understood. I was a businessman. With the money I earned from distributing flowers in trains, I bought more flowers and became a flower seller. People here love flowers, and that love turned me into a successful flower businessman." Both businessmen were now happy. When the train reached the station, they got off together and walked ahead, talking about their businesses. Friends, this story teaches us many things. The tall businessman deeply understood the rule of give and take. All great entrepreneurs in the world have become successful by following this rule of life. He shared this formula even with the beggar. The beggar adopted this natural law, and its impact became clearly visible in his life. He changed his mindset, and his life changed. This story tells us that if we change our thinking, we can achieve anything. If we continue to see ourselves as small, we will always remain small. To become great, we must change our mindset and think big about ourselves. The essence of this story is that success lies hidden in your thoughts. Awaken your self-respect, think big, and see how you reach the heights of success.